Welcome, Red Cape Nation, to iStation's 2018 Back to School Product Release Showcase. I'm Karen Ingram, a National Educational Consultant here at iStation. And today's show is going to be some exciting information into the inside and the back. We get to look and get behind the scenes and see all of the new content for all of our products. So we're going to start off by viewing a video that gives us some insight into iStation's middle school literacy curriculum, or better known as Timeless Tales 2.0 Next Level.
Return to the hub with Sage in iStation's middle school reading product, Timeless Tales 2.0, and explore levels 4, 5, and 6. Students catch up with the hubsters and check out their conversations, social media, and text messages, while simultaneously improving reading fluency, learning argumentative text structure, and so much more. Levels 3, 4, and 5 are all about argument. Students discover that aliens are behind the data corruption, but it was an accident. When their new friend gets locked up, students must use what they've learned to convince Tony and the world that the aliens are here to help. In Level 6, Tony is shocked to discover that all his beloved poetry was messed up during the information transfer. He makes all the hubsters and student players learn about poetry so the archive can be restored. Timeless Tales 2.0 gives students agency through choices that come with visible, authentic outcomes, content on demand, and immediate feedback that motivates students to play the game and ultimately to learn the content. Timeless Tales 2.0, the next level in educational gaming.
All right. Amazing. So joining us today are members of the middle school literacy curriculum, Timeless Tales 2.0. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having us. I'm Jake Jakubowski. I'm a multimedia designer for the Timeless Tales 2.0 team.
And I'm Peter Jacobson. I'm a curriculum writer for Timeless Tales 2.0.
All right. Well, it's good to have you here. Now, last time we checked in, all of our players, that's what we call them in the game-based world, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, but they're students, okay. But all of the players were really having a hard time trying to figure out what was causing all the data corruption. Is that right?
That is right. And when you arrive, we're really excited to be talking about this right now. We've been hard at work over the summer, and there's just a lot of new content coming out. So as you mentioned, when you're in this game narrative, there's a big problem that you discover early on. And then in level 3, you finally discover what's behind the data corruption, which is aliens. And they're the good kind of aliens. They're not trying world domination. They're actually trying to help. I know, seriously. But they're trying to share information, and not everyone trusts them. So in level 4, you kind of saw a little bit in the video, they lock up your newfound friend, Bob the alien, and you have to convince the people of Earth to let him go. And then in level 5, you eventually have to convince everybody everybody to side with the aliens and accept this great gift of knowledge that they're trying to share. So Timeless Tales 2.0 is one big story from the very beginning. The whole game is tied into one narrative, and so these levels 3, 4, and 5 represent the climax of that story. So they're really dramatic and exciting, but they're also thematically tied in terms of academic content. Mm-hmm. So one of the big parts of the middle school reading standards is argumentative text. And we really wanted to not just scratch the surface, but get really detailed about that. So we started with the basics, kind of the bottom of Bloom's taxonomy in level 3. We're kind of identifying claim, evidence, and reasoning. Then we start gradually building our way up in level 4. You start understanding argumentative strategies like rhetoric, rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, logos. Rhetorical devices. It gets complex. And then by the time you get to level 5, you're evaluating and analyzing these arguments, trying to pick out fallacies, which is, difficult.
Still pretty difficult.
It's difficult for adults.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited about it, but it is dense content. So we've tried to come up with a bunch of ways to make it accessible for kids, and one of those is content on demand.
Yeah, one tool that we're going to use is something we call content on demand, or CODs. And as the name implies, this is content that the student can go choose to review at any time they like while they're in the hub. And for this, it is completely optional. It's additional content that they've already covered. It is mandatory if they're struggling. But we want to make it accessible for kids, so we wanted to have it something in their voice, something they're familiar with. So we tried to emulate popular YouTube videos that are more fast-paced, instructional videos. But we also added some comedic timing and some humor. That way we try to make sure that the students are entertained by it and choose to go seek out this additional content. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I think they turned out really well.
So you balance game mechanics and storytelling with academic skills and standards.
Yeah, it's not exactly a balance. A balance almost implies that it's one or the other, and it's really what we're trying to do is to integrate those two ideas at every possible opportunity. Something's not going to either be instructional and academic or fun and engaging. We work at just like the whole design team is really racking our heads together to find the most fun and engaging ways to teach it, which is why, in the first place, that we set out to create this large game narrative. This is a monumental task. We are teaching the entirety of the middle school reading standards in one continuous story that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But the reason that we do that is because it creates authentic purpose along the way. We were talking about levels 3, 4, and 5 that are about argument. Well, we're teaching that skill for a real reason in the game. You have to convince Earth to trust these aliens, which means you have to understand not just kind of a sound argument, but how to kind of phrase it in a way that resonates with your audience. And that's a real skill being used for a real purpose. So we're always trying to find that authentic, motivating factor that brings people in and keeps them engaged. And
yeah, keeping students engaged is a big goal of ours. The more engaged they are, the more easy it is for them to learn. Mm-hmm. So to balance that out, we kind of have some predictable content as well as some unpredictable content. So, for example, predictable would be the hub. This is the main area that students would come to every level. And here it's going to be overall pretty much the same format. They'll be able to talk to Tony, the bouncer. They'll be able to interact with different hubsters, go to the kiosk, and of course visit our content on demand like we mentioned. But on the other hand, we have more unpredictable, which is going to be something for our virtual world. So every level, there'll be something different in the virtual world. For one level, they might go to New York to analyze a Broadway play. Or they can go to London and have a choose your own adventure with Sherlock Holmes. So that's definitely very exciting. And that gives us different opportunities for having more students have opportunities to practice their skills and have different formats to learn the content. Another thing we have that's different various levels is our arcade.
Yeah, well, speaking of practice, the arcade is a real good opportunity for students to practice very specific skills. They're kind of like mini games within the greater narrative. They're still tied to the narrative because you have to charge your member ID card in order to get, power up the portal and get to the virtual world. So there's still a purpose within the game narrative, but then these things are all themed individually, and you can practice, vocabulary and context, word analysis, spelling, all of these different specific skills. And another cool thing about our arcade is it's adaptive, so it gets harder as students succeed, and it actually kind of pulls back to meet their level if they're struggling with a skill. So that also allows for a lot of replayability. You can still improve your skill because the words will be getting harder even if you've mastered it. And that's been exciting. And we have a new game.
Our newest game is Super Sleuth. It's an arcade game where you play a detective, and every time you play it, you're going to have a different mystery. And you have all the clues for this mystery. You just need to clear off your desk a little bit and find the clues. You're a bit messy of a detective.
Messy detective.
Yeah. So to do that, you got to clear off the Post-it notes off your desk by using your vocabulary and word context skills to find clues. And these clues help you pick out which suspect that you believe was committed the crime. So if you don't get it all right, you may not get the right person for the crime. But if you do get it right, you catch the right person and you become a super sleuth.
Wow. I think that this clean integration of gaming with academics really puts kids in charge and allows them to have fun, right?
Absolutely.
We got to have fun. So tell us what's next with Timeless Tales 2.0. Like, tell us about, can you give us like a little hint or a sneak peek into level 6 or what's coming in September?
Yeah, September's not too far away. And Level 6 is going to be entirely about poetry, which is kind of a massive genre in itself. It's a 6-week unit in many classes, so we're tackling quite a bit. But again, it's all part of the same narrative. So if 3, 4, and 5 are the climax, this is kind of like the resolution. You know, all of the aliens have shared their information with the world. Everyone's happy. We've got new technology, advances, clean energy, except they ruined poetry in the process. Yeah, and Tony,
Really likes poetry.
Likes is an understatement right there. He loves himself some poetry, and he is really upset about this and takes out his frustration on some of the hubsters by making them all do a poetry project. So they all have to, they all have to research a different genre of poetry. So we have ballad, haiku, we have sonnets, free verse in there. And all of the hubsters are struggling to kind of work on this project. And I really like this narrative construct because my experience with students is that poetry can occasionally be a difficult thing to engage with. The language is dense. Sometimes you're teaching older poetry, which is not necessarily as relatable. So having these students, or the hubsters, who are kind of like our middle school students, struggle to write poetry, struggle with writer's block and meter, it kind of makes it more accessible. But we also need to make sure we provide some strategies for analyzing poetry. So we use the acronym SMILE, which stands for SMILE, stands for structure, meaning, imagery, language, and effect. Acronyms work. Yes, got it out there. And what we're looking for here is to get kind of the basic understanding of poetic analysis. Every poem is going to be different, so it's difficult to prescribe one perfect way to analyze a poem, but we can at least point the right direction for the questions to be asking. And this is kind of how we start with the basics, and then we build up to more advanced, more particular analysis.
Yeah, so when we do this is in our virtual world. In our virtual world, this level, students are going to go to some place they haven't been before, which is the alien world. Ooh. And here, they're going to meet a new character named Maven. Now, Maven is kind of this alien version of Sage, which is a character that you might have seen in that video. He's the little blue character. He's also always in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. But Sage is going to be very familiar with human culture and the players, while Maven, who's alien, is not. She's not very familiar with human culture, English language. She's very literal, so obviously poetry is going to be very difficult for her. So she's a really good proxy for the student, which is nice because in the virtual world, we're going to get really in-depth with poetry, more than just the basic stuff. So we're going to get really into feet, meter, into the real nitty-gritty. They're going to learn to identify parts of poems, analyze why poems are certain ways, and what makes a poem good in different ways. So it's going to be a lot of work for the students. It's going to be definitely something that's going to be more challenging, but we are aware of that. We don't want to have it be too much for the student. It is big cognitive load for them, so we like to add some creativity to it. So we have little brain breaks. One example would be blackout poetry, which is similar to like refrigerator magnets. Uh-huh. So we give the students a selection of text. They can go through, highlight words that they like to make their own poem. And then once they have their own poem, they add art to the background to add imagery and be more creative and add more creativity to the poem. So we're really excited to see how students enjoy that in September.
I've played around with this particular feature quite a bit.
We all have.
And it's a lot of fun. You can really kind of let your creativity go wild, and it is a nice kind of break because we're doing very heavy analysis, and it's a fun spot to kind of recharge as you go back into more in-depth analysis.
Well, I certainly agree that teaching the elements of poetry can be a really difficult task, but I think it sounds like iStation has the relatable characters and also the fun lessons really make this difficult content accessible for students. So I think it's amazing. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us today and giving us all of this information and background on what's new in Timeless Tales 2.0. So isn't this amazing? Isn't it awesome?
Thank you.
Well, up next, we're going to have members of the iStation Early Math join us and give us insight into that product, into our new content there. And so first, though we're going to watch a video and see how it's all adding up.
Join the math superstars in iStation Early Math on new stops along their U.S. tour in time for Back to School 2018. These newly released locations have expanded lesson themes, with each setting hosting multiple unique mathematical concepts. Each stop has new game designs and free play activities. New skill areas in iStation Early Math include geometry, algebra, and data, as well as measurement in many forms. Get on the bus and watch your math superstars shine in iStation Early Math.
All right, so we're back.
Hey, Red Cape Nation, Donnie here.
Hey, Donnie.
I think it's about time we give a shout out to the great fun we had at our two newest roadside attraction stops, Paul Bunyan Park and TikTok Park. And don't forget, in iStation Early Math, students join our Math Superstars concert tour, stopping at interesting spots along the way and exploring tons of fun math concepts like time, money, algebra, and more.
Wow, well, that was a surprise. I didn't know Donnie was going to pop in. Well, we have some other very special guests here with us today. We have Stephanie Nolan, who's known as iStation's math boss. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome back.
Hi, Karen. Glad to be back. I'm the unofficial math boss. My official title is the Math Curriculum Manager, which means I'm in charge of the ed part of our ed tech product. And I brought with me one of our tech people, the people who work on the interactive side. Want to introduce yourself, Rose?
Yes, my name is Rose Miller. I'm the lead artist on the early math content. So I create a lot of the illustrations and the 2D game art assets for our interfaces.
Oh, go ahead. She makes the settings really amazing.
Well, you know what? That's where I'm going. I want to know about the settings. I want to know what the students are going to experience in early math as far as settings.
For this release, we're actually adding a lot of variety. We're adding a couple of new attractions, TikTok Park and Paul Bunyan Park, that Donnie actually mentioned earlier. So those will be really cool. But we are also adding to pre-existing attractions. So in our truck stop, we're going to do like an arcade game. It's called Shape Racer.
And it's Angel's favorite.
Yeah, she loves it. But no, yeah, as far as, you know, the attractions go, we're adding a lot of stuff visually and everything, which looks like a different setting to the kids. That's really fun. But we're actually changing how we've done the interfaces in the past too. They were great back then, but we are changing it from the D-pad only to having realistic settings as well, so that the kids are relating more a little bit to what they're seeing on our interfaces.
There are things that kids do, like play board games or
Yes.
play with cards or, like you said, play an arcade game, shop, those kinds of things. So it really looks, it's a good hook because it's very engaging to look at.
Well, I like the variety of the interface, and I like the way the virtual reality is going to be incorporated. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. So I understand that free play is taking on a new role in this new content. Why is free play so important for teaching students?
Well, I know that it's fun for students. Yeah, the free play it's just another form of like a reward or a payoff for the kids, or that's what we originally were talking about when we came up with the idea to go back towards free play. So it's just a way for them to, you know, for instance, like with the ice cream stuff that we have in TikTok Park, they're building their own ice cream at the end of the lesson, and it gives them a little bit of ownership. And they get to make a custom thing, so it's just a fun way to reward them at the end of the interface.
Okay.
Stephanie can really tell you more about the educational aspect of it.
We do know that even our littlest little have a lot of technology savvy now, and so instead of giving them direct instruction, by giving them the opportunity to explore on their own, we just leverage that knowledge that they already have. And to piggyback on what Rose has said and what the guys from Timeless Tales said, fun is important. The brain research tells us that things that are engaging are more likely to be remembered, and so that's what we want.
I think free play will definitely raise that level of engagement. So can you tell us what else is new in iStation Early Math besides what you've already talked about here today?
Well, if we kind of dovetail it together, the settings and the new interactivity, the free play and the new elements of game really do support what we've done in our content. That at this point we have addressed content across all of our domains from pre-K to grade 1, and we're able to engage kids in activities from algebra and geometry and measurement, like measuring time and money. And the ice cream, actually, as fun and as yummy and beautiful as it actually is a data analysis piece where they are graphing and then analyzing that graph. So it all rolls in together for a great experience for kids.
Awesome. So let's talk about the web features. iStation's parent portal has been really instrumental in connecting that home and school. So what do parents have to look for in this new release?
Well, we know that parents look at back to school as a time to get a fresh start and a good start and off to a good experience. So the parent portal is a great place to visit so that you can find activities and practice and things that are fun that give kids the opportunity to practice at home what they've done at school. So we encourage you to ditch the flashcards and visit the parent portal at iStation.com.
And games are always more fun than flashcards.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
What new features are in the teacher resources?
We're really excited that we've begun a partnership with Metametrics on the math side of iStation. We've partnered with Metametrics before with reading in the Lexiles, but now our teacher resources have been evaluated by Metametrics and quantile measured. And you'll find, if you go to the website and you pull up a teacher resource in mathematics, you'll find that quantile measure noted on their landing page the same way that you would the Lexile level on the reading. So it's easy to find. It's a good number for teachers to reference when they're looking for the appropriate level of material. And I'll give you a little sneak peek or a preview, a teaser, Karen. We've just started with Metametrics. So there'll be more to come. So we'll be bringing more information about our partnership there in the future, but we're off to a good start knowing those quantile numbers.
Well, you know what? As usual, the math product team really finds a way to support educators, and I'm sure they appreciate that.
We have actually added, in addition to the lessons that we've added some resources. I know as a classroom teacher, there were times when I would say, oh man, I need a set of 10 frames, or I need a coordinate plane, or just some grid paper. What lesson did that come in? So we've gone in and we've added 72 standalone Blackline resources for teachers who just need that in a moment to supplement what they're already doing. So those are also on the teacher resources now. So search base 10 blocks or search number cards and you'll see what you get there.
This is really interesting. So far, we've had an insight into iStation Early Math. Now we're going to view a video that gives us insight into the iStation 2nd through 5th grade math curriculum.
Secret Equation Man and the rest of the SEM team need your students' help in defeating the villains running amok in iStation Math. To combat the villainy, students will use skills involving elapsed time, data with picture graphs, bar graphs, line plots, measurement conversion, evaluating expressions, division strategies, and more. In addition, iStation has created helpful tools embedded in these lessons to set up your students for success. Students now have even more ways to save the world, one math mission at a time, with iStation Math.
Hey, agents! The villains have been up to no good again. As usual, Mismatch is making a mess of her garden, among other things. We can't forget that dastardly math-a-magician either. At least he's willing to deal with us so we can get all our spy gear back.
Oh boy, villains.
Villains.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that was a little scary for me. I don't know about you all out there in Studio Land, but it was pretty scary, and I'm so glad that we have your team.
And our interactive counterparts that
Cliff is
help
here.
us save the day.
Cliff, tell everybody what you do. This is Cliff Bell.
Hi everyone. So it's good to be here. I'm the interactive project lead for math grades 2 through 5. That means I oversee a team of designers and programmers who actually build the content. My job is to kind of help them with that and assign tasks and facilitate communication with the other departments such as curriculum, art, and QA.
Okay, well, we're going to need your help because Donnie mentioned villains, and I don't know about you all, I'm a little nervous about villains. And so what villains will the students encounter in this part of the content, and what kind of chaos are they going to create?
So almost all of our villains make a return for this release. Donnie already mentioned that math magicians steal some of their gear and they have to solve volume puzzles to retrieve it. I know that Pie Face has covered all the employees' vehicles with cheese and pizza toppings. We even have a lesson where Mismatch teams up with Pepperoni to break into SEM headquarters and kidnap Weatherby.
Dun, dun, dun.
Teams up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're teaming up now. I mean, this is just too much. I mean, the agents, they're going to have their work cut out for them. So, Stephanie, what are we providing them with to help them to combat these dastardly deeds?
Well, in addition to the great interactive content that our team has built together, as my team all came from the classroom, and so we know that there are tools or there are strategies that we can kind of slip into that instruction that really do support kids. And a good example is this reference material that kids a lot of times see on their standardized test. I use a conversion chart like this when I'm baking in my kitchen now, and so formulas and those kinds of things are tricky. Teachers use them in standardized tests, but maybe they don't have the opportunity to have a lot of instruction, a lot of practice. So the mismatch lesson that Donnie was talking about, where she's mixed up her vegetables, gives the student the opportunity to practice using the appropriate conversion table to solve the problem. It's amazing. It's really, really great. But in addition to tools, we also really are looking for strategies that support learners. A good example of a 5th grade standard is being able to fluently divide using the standard algorithm and strategies. Typically, we know the classroom provides that instruction in teaching the standard algorithm for division. So our lessons address strategies. One of the strategies that you'll see in 5th grade is using an area model where they physically can see the way things are divided up. And the lesson that Cliff was talking about, where Pepperoni and Mismatch teamed up to kidnap Weatherby, is a lesson where Donnie competes in a game called the Divide Off. And they teach in that lesson what's technically called partial products, we affectionately refer to as the Big Seven, because as the student computes and solves, the division problem looks like a Big Seven forming. So it's very helpful, it's really fun, it's really exciting, and hopefully we save Weatherby and get him back in time.
Well, I definitely think that with those resources and those tools, that students are going to feel empowered to tackle those problems, that problem solving, and then also those old nasty villains, right? So, but I do have one last question. Sure. And this is from educators. We know that right now, our iStation Early Math, the units in the iStation 2nd through 5th grade are not connected, they're separate. Right. And so what is the plan to bridge the units from our Early Math to the units from our 2nd through 5th grade instruction?
Well, you'll be excited to know, if this is a concern of yours, that we are just beginning to make those product bridge connections between Early Math and 2 through 5. We're just starting, but we're starting with probably the place where we see the most need, those struggling 2nd grade students who might need below grade level content that's not in the 2 through 5 program. So we've taken a look at some of those prerequisite skills in below grade levels, and we've routed our 2nd grade content to have a little bit of that reteach and that additional practice. For example, a 2nd grade lesson is requiring students to identify unknowns in addition and subtraction word problems. Mm-hmm. But if they have difficulty with that, they might need to just understand how to identify unknowns. So from that lesson, they're routed to a 1st grade lesson where they're finding unknowns in just naked number sentences without the problem-solving element. And then they go back to practice in 2nd grade again. We're just starting this, so we have just a few lessons where we've built that bridge, but we can look for more to come. However, getting the math involved, lined up, was easy. Making it make sense for the kids was something that we needed our interactive and production team to help us with. So Cliff solved that problem. Tell us how we solved that problem.
So we had to approach it from 2 different perspectives. The first being a technical perspective, where we actually have to route content from one product to another, which we've never done before. And one of the programmers here spent a great amount of time getting that to work. But once it was working, we realized that it didn't really make sense because the students would go from an outro with a villain monologuing at them to being on the road with the band with no explanation. So there was a brainstorm meeting between art, curriculum, and interactive, and the storyline we came up with is that Donnie, Six, and Angel, their secret identities have been compromised, and so they have to go into their secret identities to kind of as a band to kind of reinforce that idea and give them some cover. And in the meantime, they get to practice their early math skills.
And get their jam on.
All right. I think this is so cool, so cool. Well, I want to thank members of the product team for math for joining us today. And this has just been so much fun, hasn't it?
I gotta get back on the road, iStation friends. I'm glad you got to check out our cool new activities in iStation Math. You gotta admit, this team really rocks the house. Happy problem solving. I'm out.
Bye, Donnie. You know what? I think Donnie has to go do a music gig. We know he's really going on a secret mission, right? So anyway, we have to let him go so Secret Equation Man can take care of business. Well, let's continue the fun because up next, we're going to view a video that gives us insight into a land from iStation's Spanish curriculum, El Mundo de los Géneros.
Since releasing The Land of the Past and Land of the Present, iStation Español has added Land of the Future. The Land of the Future features 4 literary fiction and nonfiction genres: fantasy, exploratory text, science fiction, and procedural text. The 4th grade lessons introduce the genres by comparing and contrasting an illustrated story and a food web. Students engage with the genres at their own pace in an interactive exploratory scene. Students read text that highlights the main characteristics of a specific genre. And if a high-performance score isn't achieved, students are routed to a reteach lesson with reinforcements. And now, welcome to the Land of the Future in the world of genres.
All right. Doesn't this look exciting? So I have the pleasure of sitting here today with members of the Spanish Curriculum Literacy Team. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Hola.
Tell us who you are. Introduce yourselves to the audience.
My name is Maria Soler, and I'm the managing editor of our Spanish product team. And along with another editor, we edit all of our curriculum content and design all of our teacher resources.
Okay.
My name is Andy Estrada, and I'm the art director for The Land of the Future.
All right. Well, you know, there have been some very positive reviews from our Red Cape Nation about our land of genres. In the last few releases, the last 2 releases, as a matter of fact, we've been introduced to the land of the past and the land of the present. And so now we finally have the land of the future. This is pretty exciting. So tell us about the land of the future, Maria, and what genres that students will encounter.
So we're very excited to add explanatory and procedural texts along with fantasy and science fiction to the Land of the Future. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And Andy, I need to know how the characters were created.
Well, the Spanish team had already done market research, asking 4th and 5th graders what they liked and what they wanted to see, and we decided that a robot would be the main character for the future, and some type of android for a sidekick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my goal was to make the coolest character that the users had ever seen. I pulled all type of reference that I think they would like. I pulled out games and cartoons and just mashed them together. You see a lot of Mega Man and Iron Man in Maximo. Dos Mentes, which translates to 2 minds, is a mashup of 2 characters. The left and the right brain, which was a way trickier design than Maximo, having to give one character 2 faces and 2 personalities. The right brain is represented on the top as an organic organism who's more creative, hence his name, Creativo. And the left brain is represented at the bottom as an artificial intelligent computer that's more analytical, hence her name, Analytica.
Oh, wow. You know, students love science fiction characters. And so I just think it's brilliant to use that to teach difficult text like procedural and explanatory. So that's awesome. And what about the main character, Maximo?
Maximo, age appropriateness was like our main focus with Maximo. So he's roughly the same age as our users. And like our users, they dream of becoming something awesome. And in Maximo's case, he wants to be a hero. And he knows the only way to do that is by continuing to learn and grow. He's determined to learn, and he relays the importance of becoming a good citizen within his community. And he demonstrates it by saving the city from a toxic monster, the word gobbler, who is contaminating the city. Yes. Overall, he's ambitious, he's courageous, he's smart, and overall cool.
All right. And Maria, what about the teacher-directed lessons, or we call them TDLs? How are they aligned to the online lessons?
So our lessons, for those who are new to us, our teacher-directed lessons are lessons that are specifically created to address a set of skills in 30 minutes. And they're very easy to deliver because they're scripted and they include all the materials that the teacher will need to deliver the lesson. So they are aligned to our curriculum in several ways. The first is that each curriculum lesson will have a corresponding teacher-directed lesson that they can download. The second is that they will have the same format. So they will have a teach section, a guided practice, and an independent practice where students can work on their own. And also, they're visually aligned. So you will find our online characters in our downloadable lessons per land. So you will have the characters from the future, the land of the future, the present, and the past in each lesson, depending on where they belong to. So far, we have 125 lessons for the world of genres, along with several, countless really, passages and glossaries for our students to use.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I really think that the versatility of the TDLs really do support the teachers in the classroom. So that's going to be awesome. Now, I know that vocabulary has been in previous cycles of iStation, the iStation Spanish curriculum. So, vocabulary games, right?
Yes.
So why are games used to teach vocabulary in the world of genres?
Well, games are fun and engaging, and it's a very good way to address different learning styles in one place, basically. And they take away the stress of students learning something new. They also facilitate the memorization of new structures and to learn how a word came to be. Yeah.
Okay. And providing students with the opportunity to use auditory, visual, and kinesthetic skills really help them to acquire vocabulary.
Yeah.
And so, we keep forgetting that other word, fun. They get to have fun. And what about the games, the vocabulary games in the land of the future? What are they?
So we have El Tragapalabras, which means the world gobbler, and El Taller de Conocimientos, or the knowledge workshop. And there, students can work with definitions, synonyms, antonyms, prefixes, suffixes, context clues, and all sorts of variety of word components where they will learn a lot. And Andy did a great job designing our games. Yeah.
Oh, well, I had a great team, and I wish they could all be up here with me. But our first vocab game, they find out that the word gobbler has disrupted the energy flow within the city. So it's up to the user to get that back on track. And our second vocab game is our reteach, where students have to go back and redo something if they didn't get it right the first time. And there, Maximo, he learns that knowledge is literally the source of his power. And if he doesn't keep it up, he'll power down. So our user has to reboot him by getting the words correctly.
All right. These vocabulary games sound really technical, but they sound like a lot of fun. So I want to thank you. Thank you all for being here and discussing all of the new content in the land of the future. Let's hear it for our Timeless Tales team. As always, our product release showcase has been very informative. Thanks to all of the members of the product teams that showed up today. So we had Timeless Tales 2.0, our middle school literacy curriculum. We've also had members from our iStation Math and our iStation Espanol team. So thank you all so much for being here. I also want to thank our studio audience for being here today, and also thanks to all of you out there in cyberspace for being a part of iStation's 2018 Back to School Product Release Showcase. And that's a wrap. We will see you later, Red Cape Nation.